Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu campaign. Welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 2, Episode 25. My name is Travis, and I will be your keeper today. Before we get into it, let's go around the table and get an introduction from our investigators.
I'm Brandon, and I'm playing Wallace Andrews, MD, and currently, I forgot.
Napping in a shed with three.
Yeah, I'm
well,
like
just
still waking up in a shed with my friends after having had a wild dream.
And I'm Lance Monroe. This is Justin, in a much similar situation. That's still pondering what these dreams mean for what we're currently trying to do and what the grander scheme of things is.
And I'm John playing James Whitmire, who is also trying to solve this mystery.
So yes, it's June 17th, somewhere around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and three men were taking a nap in a shed.
In an abandoned factory.
Being watched over by three young children.
Yeah.
Which I think in this era, the police could easily arrest you and charge you with mopery. Which was like their catch-all for they didn't like what you were doing, but it wasn't necessarily illegal. But yes, there you are, and I suppose we'll zoom in on Dr. Andrews for a moment as he had a somewhat revelatory experience within his dream. This dream that projected you far to the west near a ancient burial mound and a more modern installation that seems to conceal a horrible truth in the subterranean spaces of Earth. And you're starting to put some of it together, but not all of it. It's just more of a vague outline in your mind. So what do we have here? A powerful group, the Consortium, whose aims are, if you are to believe it's connected to the vision you saw when your injured hand touched the table at your home or apartment, whatever it is, would be the destruction of Boston and who knows what else. And to what purposes, who can say? But they don't seem to be aligned with human goals or desires. And your mind keeps skittering away from it. It doesn't want to make all the necessary connections, so you're still left with a few questions. But in a practical sense, they wanted a murder charge to land on Charlie Murphy, the nephew of Mr. Dooley. For some reason, you have some suspicion it was to conceal who the true murderer was. Somebody perhaps connected to Porcellian. And that's where we find ourselves today, is in this shed. We have all of the day to look into whatever you guys might want to look into or discuss whatever you might want to discuss. So what do you want to do? I'll reiterate, I suppose, that you have a couple of ways that would meet the Consortium's demands, or at least two options, if you were to go that way in regards to Charlie Murphy. You know that these criminals that worked for Francis Sweetheart Walsh had impressed upon James Clark, the lawyer you guys got to represent Charlie, that if they were, that he should accept a plea bargain that the prosecution was going to put forth.
Yeah.
Alternatively, the Consortium has indicated to Mr. Monroe that Wallace Bowers, the man driven insane after a ritual and placed in Danvers Sanitarium, could also take the fall. But that has a complication in that he was committed prior to the supposed date of Mr. Dooley's murder. So that's the central problem before you guys.
Yeah. So somehow we'll have to alter the records of when he was admitted.
I'd been thinking about this.
Destroy them.
And
Yeah.
perhaps we should speak to Charlie Murphy and present his options. I'm not sure from our last time with him whether or not he would fully be able to comprehend what the plea bargain would mean, but
That's true.
he seemed to be under more capable faculties than the court had at least given him credit for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we should definitely speak with Charlie, but I think what's more important is that there's lizard people living in caves under the earth, eating and using humans as flesh suits.
There are also, fat worms that are using people as flesh suits, and
Well, the fact that Betty's boyfriend, something Beckett, right?
Yeah,
Murrow Beckett, has been communicating with her through a radio is starting to make me wonder if there isn't a real physical entrance into these underground caverns rather than just a dream one.
well, you had mentioned seeing through gates.
Yeah. There was a cabinet or a cupboard that looked into Boston, out over Boston.
And there was the safe that I had found at the Wilbur Theater as well that was one of these gates. And didn't Lance have one delivered to a shop?
Yeah, a sarcophagus-like thing that was very similar with the same markings was anonymously delivered to my my museum. So,
Monroe, you can make an occult roll. All of you guys can throw it out there, though.
I'll go ahead and use some luck.
So you're going to spend 3 luck to make that your occult roll a regular success?
Yep.
So one idea that occurs to you is, being as well versed in the occult as you are, you understand the concept of the astral plane. Of course, you've never had any firsthand experience with it or no way to prove of its existence, but it is all over occult writings as a possible way to project your spirit into this plane that overlays the earth, a sort of spirit realm. And this connects with this idea of this, that you dream and you go to where this mound is, which you know from your archaeological background is an actual place. So perhaps you are dreaming yourselves into, or being forced into by these toad statuettes, a projection of that area. So maybe there is something to what Dr. Andrews says.
I say exactly what he just said. Only in a very flashy and elaborate way.
And it takes 10 more minutes.
Yeah. And I stand there with my, pontificating stance as I do it.
Well, if we could get there physically, that brings up the question of should we? It's likely to be quite dangerous. But I did promise Betty that I would try to find a way to rescue her boyfriend.
Well, I'm sure that she would be willing to help us by being our test subject to send through.
Would you stand in the Egyptian sarcophagus, please?
Well, it seems to me that through these dreams, we have a surprising advantage because I've been injured through my dreams while exploring that place many times and have woken up fine.
Oh, okay.
And it seems to me that as long as we can get there in the dream, we can at least scout it out in some fashion and find what we need to find before we head there in the flesh.
Yeah, we need to find out exactly where he is if we're going to attempt a rescue.
Yeah. And then the next question comes is, do we do anything about the temple and the lizard people? I, for one, don't have a whole lot of experience with explosives or things of that nature, but if we have a gate in my shop that leads directly there,
Yeah, the amount of power that the consortium wields here in the real world makes me wonder what effect we could possibly have anyways.
Well, Whitmire is still holding a stick of dynamite.
he's just always got it in hand.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
I was going to say that maybe exposure will help us get the help that we need.
Also, you had mentioned seeing skin suits.
Well, that's just my interpretation of the bodies hanging in that cold storage room, that they're using them as disguises.
If they really are, then if we could get rid of those, that would at least limit their abilities to move around freely and affect things.
That's true.
I guess the other question here is if, based on that paper that you found that Lance had solved, how are they able to survive here without that terraforming or the atmosphere that they would need to survive?
Well, I don't know if this is more knowledge than my character would have, but those are common elements that are already in the atmosphere.
Yeah, so let's filter it into what you guys might understand. And since it was solved, we can say, well, you understand what makes up the atmosphere of the Earth. You know, it's mostly hydrogen and oxygen with some trace elements. The other three molecules that they list would appear in the atmosphere at much lower levels than hydrogen or oxygen. And what Monroe saw is he saw kind of a graph that was showing an increase in some of these trace elements, but not to the degree that would make the air unbreathable or anything like that.
Okay.
So you know that these guys, they would, if they're indeed trying to make the atmosphere something they could breathe, then they would need some apparatus to move around as they do. They don't seem to be disturbed by walking around Boston. At least you didn't see anything strange beyond the shadow when you met Mr. Blackman, Whitmire.
Well, if the old stories are true anyway, they lived on the surface before they were pushed underground by humanity.
Yeah. Go early hominids.
I think it's likely just trying to make a more comfortable atmosphere for them.
I mean, we could throw it out there. You guys could do an education roll, but it would have to be a critical to have a piece of information that might make sense to a 1920s investigator.
Nope. Close, but not quite. And I'm not willing to spend the 11 luck. John could roll, yeah. Do you want to spend the 5 luck to come up with the theory of global warming?
Yeah, might as
on
well.
the spot? I'm just a gangster from Boston, but I conjecture.
I read a lot.
Yeah.
You're an eclectic reader. So, okay, so there was a paper. What is your official schooling? I've never gotten that from Whitmire.
I've got an
school of
80
hard
education, so I'd imagine that I actually did pretty well.
Yeah. Did you go on to university, or is this something? We have to have some basis for it, I suppose. Do you just spend a lot of time in libraries with your free time?
Well, I wouldn't think that I would have went to a university, right? So it's going to have to be self-study.
Okay. Well, I mean,
back then it wasn't uncommon to subscribe to science magazines and things like that.
Yeah, and
That's true.
University attendance wasn't like an expectation of your path in life, basically. So yeah, you just some fragment, some small detail of your past readings as you had come across a paper by a Swedish scientist that predicted changes in the atmosphere from carbon dioxide levels. The particular molecule that Monroe claims to have shown the greatest change in these strange graphs that he saw could alter the surface temperature of the Earth through the greenhouse effect.
Sounds like a bunch of nonsense.
So along with all of this knowledge, you have this understanding that this, if they exist, would be an ancient race from a time before man's dominance. And what's understood about past eras, say the age of the reptile, that it would have been a much warmer climate on Earth.
Yeah. They're trying
And
to
these
return
gases
to that.
would have been, or those would have been higher levels for those trace amounts.
Theoretically, according to this paper that you read.
Man, how bored must you have been to read that paper?
It was downtime between no jobs and choice between using the mask.
Yeah, it was in a paper that published more heterodox articles, so that usually the articles weren't good enough for the more popular magazines, because there could be something a little too revolutionary in the thinking, or maybe the science wasn't to high enough standards, but that's what pops in your head. So you have this possibility that they're trying to make the planet warmer for them, says the humble bootlegger.
Yeah. You guys
So how
are
does-
lucky I've got a lot of time on my hands.
How does the Harvard-educated doctor and the
Well, Monroe's pretty open to most thoughts.
right, that makes sense.
And it kind of makes sense to him that lizards would want it warmer.
So, what do you guys want to try and tackle first? Because while not as important, well, I guess not at the same level of as lizard men taking over the Earth, I do think that the easiest one to solve is Charlie Murphy.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I really don't know that he would be capable of taking care of himself outside of this place. I mean, the way that he was, if he's not getting any better and he's just released, are we really doing him any favors by clearing his name?
Well,
If that happens, I intend to adopt him.
I was kind of curious about why Mr. Merriweather brought us in on this to try and... He seemed almost personally invested in
That's
keeping
true.
the boy out. I wonder if...
Maybe he just opposes the lizard men.
It's very possible.
Well, maybe we should
But-
speak with Mr. Merriweather.
If we could find
Is
him,
he still out
that
of
would
the
be great.
country?
As far as you know,
But I don't know. Perhaps Mr. McCracken has some information on Mr. Merriweather's.
Yeah, I think Mr. Merriweather would definitely appreciate being updated with all that we've learned so far.
Yes.
you do have, I think, one or two memories, Monroe, that might be relevant. Is you do, in a previous discussion with McCracken, or maybe this was actually you, Whitmire, he had said that Merriweather keeps apartments here for when he visits, but he has a general distaste for Boston, so that thought kind of pings in your mind. Another thought is that when you met the man on the train, he had said that their plans wouldn't affect you or perhaps even your children. So whatever they are doing is in the long term, right? But yeah,
Well-
McCracken's not a bad person to talk to.
Yeah, we could see if he's at one of those apartments, or maybe he is back in the U.S. and just not here.
Wish we had one of those fat worms we could try and see if it could infect a lizard person.
As I also need to make a trip at some point to New York so I can check on and possibly move something of great importance.
Yeah, I looked it up. It would take most of the day to get there and back again. I think the actual travel time would be like 3.5 hours. I always have a hard time measuring distances on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Because when I think of a state, I think of our state. It takes a little while to get across.
Yeah. Are you considering moving the mask?
Yeah, as the fact that there's a group of dangerous individuals looking for it.
Well,
And
they're dead now, aren't they?
Some of them are dead.
yeah, I didn't think that all of them were included in that.
Well, you know that if the big Italian was able to project himself into a dream after that event,
that's
he's
true.
likely alive.
That's true.
Although maybe he's the man who was arrested.
Yeah. I suppose I would know that he's alive. Except, yet we don't quite know exactly how the astral plane works or that projection. He may have just gone there after he died.
Yeah. When it comes to what you want to do there, Mr. Whitmire, you could do it yourself, but you also did establish a crew in New York if you felt like entrusting it to one of your henchmen.
That one's a kind of a tough decision there. As,
You get your replacement character. They'll look in the mask before they bring it to you and have some experience. And then when Whitmire dies, they're ready to wonder about the mythos.
That's probably a good idea. I'll work on making one then.
No, I don't think
We should just go around and start showing the mask to everyone.
people.
All right, so let's go find Finn McCracken.
All right. So
'Cause if we go out to the road, I'm sure I'll find him in a few minutes.
He never seems to be too far away.
Yeah, I think he's been been told to watch over me because of some of the past trouble I've had with Patrick Malone and them.
Okay, so you guys leave this outbuilding and you dismiss the Great Knights back to their whatever they're going to do next. Whatever
Sell
trouble
those cigarettes.
Right.
Well, they got factory jobs too. So.
That's true. So they ride off with many thanks for all the cigarettes and get in touch with us if you need anything else. The Great Knights can always be counted on. And Mr. Merriweather had actually left you guys the contact information for Mr. McCracken on the first day of this investigation. So you can send off a telegram or you can go to the address that's listed there. And they even have a phone number by which you could call.
Except that we won't be able to actually hear him.
That's right.
What do you guys say we, my car's here, so what do you say we just go to the address?
That would work.
Yeah.
Okay, so you drive across Boston to this address, which ends up just being a small hotel in which he has a room, and give me a luck roll.
Everyone, or?
Yeah. Okay. And last you had left him, he had been searching for Mr. Mueller after Mr. Mueller disappeared.
Since
yesterday.
All of us hit our luck roll,
Yeah, that was
does
just
that
this
mean
morning.
that we find Mr. Merriweather there?
Yes. No, not Mr. Merriweather. But you do find McCracken there in between bouts of driving around Boston or trying to track down Mr. Mueller. He's just there, and when he answers the door after you guys knock on it, you can see he was in the middle of preparing himself a small meal, but he waves you all in to his humble apartments.
Okay.
I'll thank him and go either, if there's enough seating, I guess I'll take a seat, but if not, then I'll just kind of like post up over by a wall. I'm not sure how big this place is.
Yeah,
but
it's not that big. You could sit on the bed, or he really only has the one reading chair, or you could lean against the wall or against the table where he had set out his dinner.
I'm not gonna go like crowd the table or anything. That way he can go finish eating if he wants. But as soon as the door's closed, I'm gonna jump straight in with we need to get a hold of Mr. Merriweather.
So he takes out his pad and paper, and he writes carefully on there that he's afraid that's impossible, at least in any immediate time frame. He's probably in the middle of the Atlantic right now. Maybe you could send him a message, but...
Mm-hmm. So maybe you could help us. I know that you guys seem to work really closely together. Do you know why this case was so important? The Charlie Murphy case was so important to Mr. Merriweather?
He sort of shrugs his shoulders and he writes down, I don't often know why things are important to Mr. Merriweather.
All right. Lance, maybe you should demand to speak with his manager or something. No.
Are you the Karen?
Apparently I'm the Karen. Yeah.
I think that that if we have any way to get a hold of him, even if it's going to take some time, so sending a message might be the best option then, as there's some critical information that seems like he's aware of, and we need to...
We seem to be kind of
just get some more information about it.
Beating around the bush when Mr. McCracken has been in the thick with us. So I'll just start laying out.
I don't want to just come straight out to a guy that's been pretty solid so far and just start spouting off about Lizard Man. You know how crazy that sounds?
I'm just going to lay it out because he fought a dark hunter.
He rescued me from the dark. Us from the dark.
He
That's
watched
true.
the dark
Forgot
hunter
about that.
shrivel his arm and then get sucked into a void.
And he was there when Corbett reanimated the first time.
Yeah, so he's well versed in weird crap happening.
It's old hat for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a dark
I must
hunter.
have. I must have forgotten about that.
That's
I
why
try
I
to
packed the
repress
shotgun
that.
around.
Try to repress that memory as much as I can.
So you start laying everything out?
I'll try to find a way to ease him into it, but yeah. yeah, lay out that, there's a secret society and then slowly transition into ancient gods and lizard people. And that's where the Dark Hunter came from. And that's
All right.
what killed.
So this turns into a long conversation with, many pauses for questions on his part for clarification on certain details when you guys can provide it, which would afford you a persuade roll.
From who?
Boom.
Yeah, I suppose
Justin's
Monroe
got it.
is doing most of the talking. So, yeah. All right. So he pauses for a moment and then he writes and he says, well, I don't know if Merriweather knew any of this stuff that you claim was going on, but he would certainly be interested in it. He has a particular passion for odd things. But I'm afraid that Mr. Merriweather is actually dying
From.
of cancer, we think.
Hmm.
And he has exhausted all of the medical knowledge in Boston and has gone to travel to seek alternative medicine elsewhere from healers.
So I'm assuming he's not expecting to return.
I think he'll return, but I just think it will be his preoccupation. So while he might respond to messages, I don't even think, given what you've laid out, would cause him to return, given how much time he's expected to have left, which the doctors here and, other cities have said maybe a year or maybe 2. And in the context of 1920s, to travel to different countries is a multi-month investment at least. So yeah, he says he's just gone on to try like healers in India, and if that doesn't work, he'll go on to China, and if that doesn't work, then he'll return sometime next year was his plan to get his affairs in order.
Okay. Well, then,
I guess he won't be taking care of Charlie Murphy.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, we should speak to him and see if he's able to make a decision on it
Yeah.
before we make the decision for him.
everybody trudge out of his apartment. And
Back in the car.
Thanks for ruining the
for
day
nothing.
here, you cracking
Well, he does.
bastard.
He does, of course, offer his help in any way he can give it, should you guys need it.
And you get your hands on large quantities of dynamite.
He writes one word, possibly.
As I might be able to as well.
Well, even better. 2 large quantities of dynamite better than 1.
Yeah, so you leave his apartment and you get back in the car, and as you know, it's a few hours travel outside of Boston, or less than an hour. It's like an hour travel, there we go, to the Roxbury Sanitarium where they hold Charlie Murphy. And when you pull up, again, you see, as I described, the converted rambling country house that was made into a sanitarium with the rolling green lawn before it. And the less hostile or violent patients are out walking on this lawn in that standard, white clothes that you come to expect from these places. And there you are greeted by Dr. Powell after you inform that you'd like to visit with Charlie Murphy at the front. So that slight man of Greek ancestry comes out, Dr. Powell, and he's like, gentlemen, good to see you. He already knows Whitmire and Dr. Andrews, and so he introduces himself.
I thought I was here last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we talked to Charlie before.
Were you here? I thought it was just Andrews
Wait,
and
no,
Whitmire.
I think it was Whitmire.
Yeah, it was just me.
That
and
was when I
Andrews.
was. That's right. That was when I was trying to hunt down Johann after his first walkabout, his insane walkabout.
Yeah, and he's like, yes, I'm Dr. Powell,
It's a pleasure to meet you.
psychoanalyst here, and you are?
Lance Monroe, museum curator, but at the moment here on legal matters.
Here to visit Charlie Murphy, I presume. You guys narrowly made it before visiting hours closed.
Yes, we need to speak with him
Yeah.
regarding his case.
Yes, his lawyer was injured and sent us in his stead.
As I wanted to offer my gratitude for working on his behalf to get him quality representation. I was quite surprised that he opened up to his lawyer in any way. Now, he hasn't quite spoken that I've heard with James Clark on his visit, but he did convey his desires via written message, so that seems to be an improvement. And as you know, the doctors and I have agreed that he is fit to stand trial for his crimes. Even though I have a desire to protect young Murphy, I also feel beholden to the truth. He is not so troubled that he can't stand trial for them. But if you'll follow me, I'll have him brought to the day room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys can all sit in there, and after a short time, you see the slight form of Charlie Murphy coming out, a boy of 16, no more than 120 pounds, you would think. And he just seats himself down, kind of mirroring McCracken in a way, with that mute expectation on his face.
Well, how much time do we have before he actually gets there?
You could have like 5-10 minutes, something like that.
Okay. Because one thing that I guess leaving him here isn't an option, is we have to clear him unless he wants to suffer whatever consequences he's going to get at trial.
Well, we were going to discuss the plea bargain, where he would be basically put in a low-grade sanitarium where they would care for him for the rest of his life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
But, we
want to see if he can make that decision or not.
All right.
Because if not, then we'll have to get to work changing the documentation on when that one guy was committed.
Yeah. We could always
Wallace
just
Bowers.
grab him. We could grab him and just shoot our way out.
That's true.
Who, Wallace Bowers or Charlie Murphy?
Either one.
Why not both?
One crazy's just as good as another.
Yeah, so then he arrives after your short discussion.
Yeah, so then I sort of had some success communicating with them last time, so I'll just lay it out for him and say that there has been an offer to allow you to plead guilty to a lesser charge that will see you kept out of prison, but kept in a place like this one for the rest of your life. And we just wanted to see how you feel about that before we make that decision. You should be the one to make it. On the one hand, not to be too harsh about it, but you're left alone in the world, and taking a plea like this would at least see you in a place where you'd be seen after, but it would mean admitting guilt for what happened to your uncle. And then if you choose not to, we have another avenue, but it's not guaranteed to be successful. So there is the potential that you'd still lose, and only in this case face the electric chair while they'll fry your brain. I won't say that part.
Or we are successful and then you're just put out on your own, and you got to make the best of that.
Yeah, so he listens to what you each have to say on the matter, and he considers it for quite a long while before, in sort of a halting voice, one that kind of sounds unused in a way, like it's got a lot of vocal frying and it breaks at particular moments. And he just simply says, "But I didn't kill my uncle."
Well, that answers that.
Yes.
Sorry, he said he did or didn't?
Didn't.
Oh, in response to taking a plea bargain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you see there's a bit of confusion on how such an option would be possible. However, given that we are playing a role-playing game, certain skills or abilities could be leveraged to change his mind. Like, you did see some of your points, Dr. Andrews, landed a little bit about, the quality of care he would receive in one way or the other. But
yeah,
you can also see that he's latched on to what had actually happened.
Right. Yeah. It's just the truth is the truth, and he doesn't understand.
Yeah, which is evident in his face. There's a complete lack of guile in his expression.
Well, I'm not personally excited with this option to begin with, so I'm not going to try and convince him to take the plea.
Yeah, and I'll just explain to him that we wanted to get his opinion before we made a decision for him.
Whitmire, the dirty deed falls to you if you're so inclined.
And
Although I would say,
do think that it is kind of for the best, honestly, as I'm not confident from what I've seen so far that he would be able to take care of himself.
yeah, I was going to say that it would come down to a social skill roll, interpersonal skill roll, but in this particular case, your fast talk one won't avail you because you might get him to agree to it at that meeting based off of that skill, but it'll unravel at some point when you're away, and he'll, rubber band to his original thought on it. So, if you
would
were
I be able to do psychology, or would it be more like persuade?
Well, it would be more like persuade or charm or even intimidate, because after all, if you list out all the bad stuff that could happen to him, and only that, it could be quite intimidating, It's sort of the brimstone preacher approach to saving people.
So the police get people to take plea bargains.
Right,
so.
yeah. So that's an option. And as far as psychology goes, with a extreme success on psychology, you might be able to lower the difficulty of a subsequent skill by understanding something about Charlie Murphy that would allow you to to make a better decision on how you would convince them of that, right? Like you might be able to pick up on a weakness, but it would take more than this in the last meeting to perform that particular role, I would say.
All right.
You'd have to work at it
and I'm just going to lay it out to him, right? It's like, this is what you're going to end up probably dealing with as if we get you out of here. So, take an extra minute and just think about it before, right? As that's the approach to it, at least.
Yeah.
Can I use luck?
You can.
12?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So Dr. Andrews and Mr. Monroe have paused in their, well, not even attempts to persuade, but laying out the options. You get in there with this, sort of paternal, intimidating tactic of laying down just how terrible things will be if you don't make the right choice. And you can see he holds fast for a little while, but as you who are so well versed in how the justice system can do you wrong, because you're obviously always on the other side of it, you make a convincing argument, and by the end of it, he says, well, maybe I should. And he kind of looks like he's at a loss there, like he's drowning, and he looks at you, Mr. Monroe, and you, Dr. Andrews, for some sort of relief from this assault by Mr. Whitmire.
I'll provide the relief.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say that, if you are found not guilty, or if the charges are dropped, that, I will see to it that you're not, scattered to the wind and left to your own devices.
All right, so that will turn this into an opposed test then, in which you would have to defeat Whitmire's regular success on an intimidate. But you don't have to do intimidate. You can do one of your interpersonal skills, be it charm or persuade.
And while I can't necessarily speak to whether or not we will succeed in getting him, cleared of the charges, as far as like what comes after, I could probably use some help at the museum moving things around, and Annette could probably use some help, and just from a labor standpoint. So
yeah. So that's what we'll say. Well, we could. You don't have to worry that you'll be just cast to the wind. So all right. So I got to do what?
Roll a persuade or charm. So after you try to put out some comfort, you just realize that. Well, you see an edge in Whitmire come out amidst that intimidate that you didn't really realize was there, and it has really made an impression on young Mr. Murphy. And your attempts to undo that aren't quite enough, unless you were to spend 11 luck, because you on a tie you would defeat his intimidate since you have a higher skill rating in persuade.
Would I be able to forfeit my intimidate?
I'll spend the luck.
Or the impression's already made, Mr. Whitmire. The damage is already done.
Yeah, I'll spend the luck.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he remembers your gentle manner and the previous discussion you had with him, and so his trust comes down to you ultimately after you spend that luck, and he just says, "I don't care what happens to me. It didn't happen the way they said it did."
Yeah. Well, you're a good boy, Charlie. You stick to that story, and we'll do what we can.
As I will, as long as he doesn't like freak out or anything. But I'll like clap him on the shoulder and say, "I want to make sure that you understand what the outcome could be, because you seem like a good kid, and I don't want to see you get put in a bad spot. So we'll do everything we can to get you out of here."
And then he'll follow up with, "Have you ever considered bootlegging as a career?"
You seem like you're good with sorting things. I could use a guy like that in my warehouse.
Because honestly, I could probably set him up in New York with that other crew.
Okay, yeah. So he seems very relieved when you temper what you had said there at the end, Whitmire, and he just thanks all of you for helping you. And I don't even understand why you guys are doing this, but thank you.
Because it's our job, sir, and I'll whip out my PI badge.
Oh, no.
No, it's just kidding. I and Mr. Merriweather had believed that you were innocent, and I haven't known him for the longest time, but I think I've known him long enough that if he believes in something, then he's probably right.
Who's Mr. Merriweather? Nah, you don't have to explain it to him. He just doesn't know who he is. But
now I'm going to explain everything from the beginning, starting with...
better roll his sanity.
Yep. Has let him into every little dark secret that we've uncovered here, all
You're
the
like,
way back to Peru.
We think there's an organization there's a group of kids that might be responsible for this. They belong to the Porcellian. This is a drawing of their...
Yeah.
And you pull out that now mythos tome drawing of yours that causes that.
But I'll just briefly mention that the thing that he saw that had killed his uncle, because he saw the creature, was sent there by someone, and we wanted to make sure that they were punished rather than him.
That's right. The thing was we encountered that as well,
But
as we killed it.
Well, I don't know so much about that.
Yeah, maybe.
how was...
I've never seen another one, so
Well, I saw
must be
one
dead.
right after. What?
Yeah, that was a different
day
one.
after.
That was the one that me and the cousin to the one that me and Andrews killed.
Well, that's even more terrifying to think that there are many out there.
Dr. Powell comes into the day room after a little while, and he says, "Apologies, gentlemen, but the visiting hours are over, so I'll have to take Murphy back to his room. If you wish to speak with him tomorrow."
We'll see you pretty soon, Charlie, and I'll thank Dr. Powell for allowing us this time.
All right. Have a good night, gentlemen. So back in Mr. Whitmire's car, back on your way to Boston. By the time you get back there, it will be, let's put it like 7:30 in the evening.
So did we ever have any kind of meeting place for Dr. Call?
I think we were just meeting him at the order house.
Yeah. He should be back by now from his jaunt out to Danvers.
He's still hiding from his empty home at the order, so...
But also, we kind of, once you establish, like you make friends with somebody, then we can assume that you have different ways of communicating with each other. That way you don't have to keep, I don't have to keep an actual black book for each of you.
Yeah. I suppose we could try and find him and see what he says about the sanitarium and whether or not we might be able to use some of his contacts to get into the records area.
Even if he doesn't have contacts, if he gets us in there, and I can try.
Okay, so back to the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight.
Yeah.
So now, Dr. Andrews, did you kind of have a mental list of any well-recognized figures that you saw in the skin suit area? I know that there was one, it was like a baseball player that you recognized.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, let's see, Wilson Patterson, who's a person I know, who's a surgeon at Boston General, that I saw less than a week ago. And Sammy Park, the outfielder for the Boston Red Sox.
But yeah, I'll kind of ask you for a list of all the people that you recognized in that room.
Yeah, those are the two that I recognized. But all of them had, on the tag, it had where they, like there was a nun named Linda.
Yeah, so you guys catch a ride with Whitmire to the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight. And I wanted to put a thought in your head, Mr. Monroe, coming up from your subconscious, because I'm the keeper of your subconscious. Mm-hmm. Anything not directly controlled by you is in my domain. But it's a thought that you had, along with Mr. Mueller, about this whole apparatus within Boston having to do with the holy sites and the sacred lines.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to fit that into the revelations that Dr. Andrews had, and you're not quite sure how that connects up.
Yeah.
It almost seems like a separate or maybe even older phenomena than...
Well, there are two aspects to kind of what the grand scheme seems to be. Like there's the terraforming idea so they can come back to the planet. But then there was also his dream of like the megalithic creature. And that's where, and we'd already kind of established that the kind of power that they're trying to draw through these, like basically siphoning off power from the souls,
right,
could be used to summon something. And we know that they worship Zagua, and and after having our interaction with Father, who wanted to be set free, that was kind of what I was expecting, was that the terraforming was more for their comfort, whereas the summoning of their deity is
okay
to quickly destroy the rest of humanity and set their place as the surface dwellers.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that's what's in your head, or maybe coming out of your mouth when you arrive here and you get out of Whitmire's car and walk up into the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, where, as usual, there are a few gentlemen in discussion in the lounge when you walk in, and give your coats and your hats to the attendants and place whichever orders for food or drink that you desire. And you see a couple faces you haven't yet met, but you guys do see Philip, which you met on your first day here, actually. He is the baby-faced accountant, and he's deep in conversation with two other men, and he just raises his glass in greeting upon your entry. But you do see Dr. Call is in there drinking at the bar, looking somewhat troubled.
Okay. Is the sergeant
No.
there? Okay.
Logan Terry does not appear to be, at least on the first floor.
Okay.
He's waiting in the storeroom to burst out at Whitmire. And yeah, Whitmire, this place has taken on, maybe menace would be too strong of a word, but just your interactions with Terry have, it's always like you're coming down to the watering hole and you're not sure which predators, lying in wait for you whenever you walk in here. But as you scan around the room, you do not see the presence of Sergeant Logan Terry, which leaves you somewhat relieved.
All right. Yeah, I was planning on taking up the rear and let them lead in.
Yeah.
That way, hopefully, I'll have some type of warning if he was here.
Yeah, well, it's all clear, and the other men seem preoccupied with their discussion, which they see. There's an older, like a guy who looks like a relic of the Old West, who seems to be holding court here, although you don't really pick up what the topic of conversation is, but he seems to be doing most of the talking when you pass by. But in any case, you enter the bar, and Dr. Edward Call is sitting there hunched over a drink, looking somewhat troubled in his countenance, to the degree that he's oblivious to your entry or to any of the remarks from the other order members when they greeted you. So you're kind of, who's in the lead? Dr. Andrews?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're standing behind him, watching him looking into his glass as though secrets can be found there.
Right. Yes. So, Dr. Call, what's got you so deep in thought, my friend?
So you startle him, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, Dr. Andrews. So good to see you. Nothing to remark on. Just a troubling dream is all."
Troubling dream? Do tell, sir. I'll sit down next to him and put up a hand for a drink that they'll automatically know what I want.
Right. Which is, if I remember right, were you the one who got this much milk and this much whiskey when Whitmire made it for you the first time? It's from last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, I think you did the gin Rickies, right?
Yeah, I did the lime Ricky.
Yeah,
the
there you
gin
go.
Ricky, yeah.
Yeah, so they make it their business to remember your orders, and they get it all out for you. But yeah, he describes the dream in the field with the mound in the distance, and something we sort of gloss over in the recent times that you guys have gone there, but was there in the beginning, is the sense of how you're unsettled by just being there. There's something odd about it that doesn't leave you easy, and that's what he's most remarking about. But as his tale carries on, he begins to downplay his initial fear, and he starts to come into those grandiose terms that he likes to use when describing his movements. Mm-hmm. Acknowledging the fear, but playing up his ability to tamp it down and stride forward steadfastly. But yeah, he just says, I don't know why it troubled me so. There was nothing in the dream that I could put my finger on that was outright terrifying, but my sleep was much disturbed.
Having heard this, I'm going to ask him, Dr. Call, do you mind turning out your pockets?
Yeah, he's like, oh, yes, of course. And on that note, Mr. Monroe, I picked up an interesting artifact when I was staying outside of Danvers that I thought of you when I saw it. And there he produces what you expect to see, one of these toad statuettes, idols to Zagua, you would think.
And I'll ask him, have you had any strange cravings, hungers lately?
No, not that.
I know these questions sound strange, but...
Nothing out of the ordinary, but now I'm intrigued. Why, should I be, and why?
No, nothing. I've just been noting something that people that have had strange dreams often have cravings for either certain foods or things of that nature. And I was curious if you were experienced the same malady.
No, that's nothing to do with strange appetites. It's just the one night of this particular dream. You guys seem as though you're somewhat familiar with it.
Yes, part of what we're investigating is a shared dream experience that several people seem to have had, where they've had similar situations, a strange foreboding in their dreams, open plains with some sort of a monolithic hill and so on and so forth. And it's a rather curious happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised. I've read and I believe in shared states of psychosis, if you want to use that language. But yes, I'm a believer in that sort of thing. What do you think has triggered it?
Well, actually, it seems to be triggered by finding one of these statues. We've found several of them, and we're not sure what it is about them, whether there's something in their nature and that triggers some part of the brain in some way, but it is something that we've noted on several occasions. I myself have had a dream very similar to that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Does it?
As have I.
I had thought, as the dream persisted for a while, that I would explore it, but then it ended rather abruptly once I began to do so. But are you suggesting that this dream will occur again?
It's very possible. Like I said, we don't know exactly why these statues trigger the dreams, but they seem to have a recurring pattern as long as they are in your possession.
Well, I didn't find this one. I would say it would be more appropriate to say that it found me. You see, as I was gathering my things to get to board the train, I met and had quite a long conversation with a man on the ride back. And he was trying to gather some money for an issue he had with his mother. Sorry, the details escape me. I was most fascinated with the little knickknacks he was selling, and amongst his possessions was this statue, which I bought off him, thinking of you, of course, Mr. Monroe, as something you could show in your museum.
Well, I appreciate your concern, as well as the messages that you sent. We received them, and they were most helpful in keeping us up to date.
Yes, I tried to be as detailed as possible, but I find that the limit on what I can send a telegram to be quite constricting.
Yes, yes. Who knows? Perhaps one day we could speak in person over those distances.
Do you think?
On a regular, yes. The marvels of science and technology these days, where they will go, we don't know.
Well, yes. So that for some reason, I can't shake the image in that dream, and it troubles me even now. But how are you gentlemen doing? Sorry, I forgot my manners. I dare say my head has left the building.
Well, I'll update him on what's going on so far with Charlie. Say, look, as it turns out, those that are truly guilty, it will take some doing for the authorities to see it that way. Most specifically, there's the gentleman that you saw, Bowers.
Yes, young Bowers, quite disturbed.
Admitted responsibility.
Yes, in a way.
In a way.
Right.
Which is an important way.
He also paradoxically denied anything to do with it.
And the same can be said of Merle Beckett, who by turn claimed full responsibility for all the world's evils and denied any responsibility. But we know both of those men were part of the ceremony, and now we know that Charlie's not responsible. And so in order to make the charges stick against Bowers, we might have to do something that could be described as not entirely legal or honest, if one were inclined to be pessimistic about such things.
Well, say no more, Dr. Andrews. I understand that desperate times call for desperate measures, but I'm quite mystified as to what we are actually talking about. If you could be a little bit more direct.
I'll try to lay out. we know for certain that these young boys were a party to the murder of Mr. Dooley. And while I can't explain in full detail, they sent something to murder the man. And we know that they were a part of this. One of the things that we have trouble with is that he was committed to the asylum before the murder took place, which makes it difficult for us to prove that he was a party to the murder. While we believe that the things that they did and the rituals they did in order to seal the fate of Mr. Dooley drove the young man to his current state prior to the murder taking place, we need to update his records to show that he was committed after the murder in order for the law to rightfully find those culpable.
So he maintains this mystified expression on his face throughout that whole thing until you directly say what needs to be done. And he's like, I see. Well, I'm not certain how you might do that, but I always stand at your disposal. Well, of course, I'm not certain I want to break the law directly, but...
No, we wouldn't.
Yes, we wouldn't
want you to do that.
Ask you. But...
that's what we have Whitmire for. He's our designated lawbreaker.
Really, if you could just get us inside of that sanitarium.
Yeah, and then we'll cause a distraction.
That's what we want.
So Whitmire can slip away.
I think I could do that. But then a sly look comes over his face. But it's like, it doesn't suit him well. It's like somebody adopted a sly look because they thought they were being sly, but they are actually not sly at all. And he's like, yes, I think I could help, but I would like to be more involved in these matters. I find them fascinating. Perhaps full access to your notes, your evidence.
Well, as far as our notes and our evidence, a lot of it is indisposed at the moment.
Well, what you have, right?
Let's say this then. Do you remember when we first met and you handed me 3 articles? How true do you think those articles are?
I would say Riggs is an oracle of the modern day.
Well, then I'd say he's ready to hear the truth.
Although perhaps not here.
Right. No, not here. Somewhere more private, but yes.
Well, I can use my connections to get you guys out there. I wouldn't know. I do know that they keep these records, as when you guys telegrammed me to figure that out, they took me down into a basement where their archives are to pull that information up. So I do know roughly where in that building it is located. But I wouldn't probably be able to get you into that room, but I definitely could get you into the sanitarium.
Yeah, I think.
Of course, in exchange for...
Right.
You might think of it as a full partnership in these investigations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can agree to that.
Yes.
Yes.
And would you be open to a bit more unorthodox trade as well?
Yes.
The dream that you've had, when I've experienced it before, I've actually met others that were in the same state.
Really?
Perhaps tonight, if you happen to have the dream and I can join you there, I can show you some of the things that I've uncovered and we can show you some of the evidence.
Of course. You can count on me. I'm excited at the prospect. In fact, although, is there some way in which I should prepare myself? Do I need to burn anything or... I don't know, wear robes?
I probably still have that, since I haven't gone back to my museum or anything like that. I'll still have that Sigmund Freud book
Oh, okay.
on lucid dreaming.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll kind of hand it to him and point out the passages on lucid dreaming and preparing yourself for it.
Oh, I think I get it. Yes, I see. Okay. Do we need to go to sleep at the same time, or?
I believe that just a normal sleeping schedule would suffice.
Yeah. So he's kind of he has a slight tremor of excitement running through his body, and he's like, "Okay," and he sort of stands up, and then he sits back down, realizing that it's some hours yet until it's time to go to sleep, and he's like, "Yes. Is there anything else I can do for you gentlemen?"
No, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I believe that's all we need for now.
Do they typically keep any backups that you're aware of? Or is it just the main copy of records?
As far as I know, in these cases, the sanitarium holds the records. Now, it's possible that the lawyers involved with the investigation might have copies of this information, but I don't know that for certain.
To which we may need to speak to an officer or a detective to see what those records state.
Or I would say the defense, by law, would have access to everything the prosecution might use as evidence. So perhaps contacting this Mr. Clark. Am I aware that he was injured? I don't think so. Yes. By contacting Mr. Clark, he could figure that out for you one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll need to speak with him.
Yeah.
And keep him updated on.
And perhaps speak to this other lawyer that he had mentioned. See what kind of resources he could give us.
Well, I dare say a toast is in order, gentlemen, to our new partnership and to investigations beyond the
Dr.
wall
Cole?
of sleep.
Yeah. Well, I'll toast.
Yeah, I'll toast to that. I'll say, but Dr. Call, I must stress that many people, normal people in society, might construe any conversations of these natures to be signs of the deranged.
Yes. And very hush-hush.
Discretion.
So, yes, just for your sake, I don't want to see you end up in a sanitarium. Just speaking the truth is...
Yes, discretion. And then again, he adopts that sly look that doesn't fit his face, with narrowing of eyes. And yes, of course.
Okay.
All right. So you could carry on with small talk with him for a little while, or go on to something else.
Yeah, I think I should go see Clark because he's still in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good time to go check on him anyways.
I'll probably stay here and talk with Dr. Call about the dream and what to expect and
Okay.
where we might meet up should we both find ourselves in the dream tonight. And then there was one other thing I wanted to do while I was here. I wanted to pen a note to Logan Terry, discreetly mentioning that the people that Dr. Andrews had seen in the skin suit room would likely also be a part of the conspiracy that he's investigating.
Yeah.
And that the opera house seems to be a place where they gather frequently.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us the doctor call?
No.
Sorry.
I was gonna like pen a secret note and then
To
have
Dr. Andrews? Yeah.
no, not to Dr. Andrews, to Logan Terry.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, sorry.
And
I missed that part.
yeah, have it either sent directly to him, not through Telegram or a way that anybody else would read it, but perhaps even just leave a note here for him to read when he came in next.
Yeah, it does seem the attendants here do keep messaging within the lodge hall itself fairly discreet. You know, you've seen messages being ran back and forth, and they walk them with a silver platter to whoever they go to, or things like that. But as far as you know, they don't look at them directly, so that should be totally doable. And what about you, Whitmire? What are you gonna go on and do? Well, as I said, you guys had gotten back to Boston at about 7:30, so it is coming up on the time in which most of you guys probably turn in for the day, although you've had a tendency to go out late and skulk about.
Which is why he needed his afternoon nap.
No, I think that I'm gonna. So I'm sorry. What were you doing, Lance?
Oh, I was staying here, and I was gonna discuss with Dr. Call, what to expect when we dream and how to try and prepare for it, and where we might meet up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go and I guess I'll just go and try and relax a bit before going into the dream world. Now, are we going into the forest, or were we trying to go to this lizard place?
I was going to go to the lizard place tonight. Going back to the forest is a much grander journey than I want to take on tonight. But one other thing that we need to do that you might be able to take care of tonight is we need to talk to Detective Nichols to see if he can find any records that the police might have on when Bowers was committed. Because if there are records, then those will need to be updated too.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. And then I'm not going to take one of their frog statues, but I will have them describe, I guess I'll have Dr. Andrews describe where he entered that dream world at, so that I can try and make that my entry point and see if this is connected at all, or if there's multiple different dream worlds.
Well, I entered it in front of that burial mound, right?
Yeah.
That's where everyone does.
Where everyone seems to describe.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll definitely mention him not to speak to any large Italian men that he finds in the dream.
But yeah, I saw a radio tower off in the distance, and I went there instead of into the burial mound.
I suppose I should backtrack here and get a little bit more specific with Dr. Call, because his idea is he could have you visit and get a tour of the facilities, but that would require a specific time in which you guys would want to do that, or whoever you want to do that, to gain access to these records, like when you would want to set it for.
Like, set it when we would want to say he was admitted?
Yeah, well, it is, tomorrow is Sunday, so I don't think we will have much luck setting up something tomorrow, but certainly on Monday or sometime later in the week, I could get you guys access to Danvers Asylum.
Okay. Well, sooner the better, right? So Monday.
So for a Monday then?
Yeah.
First thing?
When would be a good time where people wouldn't be around as much, so that reduce the chance of Whitmire being found out as he's in the records room?
Well, I think that they run the standard visiting hours, so sometime out there I think would be the best. So either very early in the morning or later in the evening on a Monday.
Whitmire?
So in the evening, or when?
in the morning. The visiting hours will run from noon until 5 or so at Danvers.
As I think the probably the evening would be best.
All right. I'll let you know when I have everything in place. It might be, I suppose, which of you am I clearing the way for? Will it just be Whitmire, or?
Well, like I can go, like, to speak with Bowers and then find a way for him to slip away.
Okay.
You need a distraction.
That's true.
You know,
Monroe should go too.
I can definitely distract people.
All right. Well, I will make sure it's arranged. Okay. So Dr. Andrews is going to go on to speak to James Clark.
Yeah.
And you're hanging with Dr. Call, and I think I'm still was trying to figure out what you were going to do, Whitmire.
As I was going to go and just update Nichols and then have him see if he can find out if the police have any records pointing to, or any damning evidence pointing to Charlie Murphy at all, or any information that says that Bowers was committed at the time that the murders took place.
Right.
And then after, I'll go to one of my safe houses.
I guess you would know that when it comes to Charlie Murphy, they probably wouldn't have any documentation on Wallace Bowers because he's not even in the discussion yet. But Nichols probably could dredge up if there was a report filed with the police, for sure. Although with some difficulty since he's on administrative leave.
Okay. I'm not sure if he has anybody you might be able to talk to.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll stick with Dr. Andrews then as you depart the lodge hall to head over to Boston General Hospital and meet with James Clark, which, as it's grown quite late, you arrive at a time when not many people are there visiting, but they don't really have any restrictions. They leave it up to the patient on when they can have visitors or not, unless it's a very extreme case, something contagious or they're in and out of consciousness. And you find that James Clark is doing well.
Okay.
On the mend, as best he can be, short in arm. And he's just sitting there sort of awkwardly reading the paper with one hand, as he is accustomed to being able to hold it open with two. And so he's kind of fiddling with it a little bit when you walk in, and he sets it on his lap. And he says, Dr. Andrews, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you? Can I help you with that?
Oh, no, that's all right. I was really just killing time. Mostly I don't retain what I'm reading. This experience is strange, so I find that I'm thinking about that mostly. A little while ago I had an arm and now I don't.
Yes.
And somebody ate that arm or parts of it. And you can imagine how one is preoccupied.
Just grisly.
But what are you up to this evening?
Well, I just came to check on you, but also to update you on progress and decisions we've made. Get your professional opinion.
Okay.
And so then I'll tell him what we plan to do, right?
Right. With the
yeah,
you told him that Charlie Murphy didn't want to take the plea bargain.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take the plea bargain, and that doesn't surprise me or upset me. And we have other options for who can take responsibility.
Well, I think we should pursue those options aggressively because, as I said, I think he only has a 50-50 shot as it stands.
Well, to pursue those options, we're going to have to do some things that might not be described as perfectly legal.
Well, let me stop you right there, Dr. Andrews. The less you say about that, the better for my position.
Right, which we would never do. But really what we'd need to know is if, say, on a totally unrelated matter, if someone was admitted to a sanitarium and then somehow the date that they were admitted into the sanitarium was changed at the sanitarium in their records, who else might have those records to be able to say, look, I know this date's been changed because I have the record.
I see. Well, when a person's committed, sometimes they're forced to by the state, in which case the paper trail is a little bit longer because this is a determination by a court or a doctor, and then they go off to the sanitarium. But
what if they're admitted of their own volition?
In that case, I think it would be a lot easier. There would be less paper involved. It would be between the patient and the facility in which, and I will pretend I didn't hear anything about date changing or
very interesting. Not that I have any reason for asking. It's just mild curiosity.
But I can infer that our alternative suspect in this case would be a patient at such facility.
Yes, a patient who has claimed responsibility.
And if we're going to direct the attention of the justice system there, then the prosecution will very quickly try to find an alibi because that would be the easiest out. So definitely the paper would have to be favorable to us before we even mention a name of this hypothetical character.
Yeah, and I'm confident that it will and does even now.
Well, like I said, the less I know, the better. So I don't think I want to pry into that anymore. But I will need a pretty strong piece of evidence to get, like a mistrial or this case thrown out or something like that to direct the court's attention to whoever else did this. So can you, in vague, non-incriminating ways, tell me what we're looking at here? Like what will I be able to present?
Well, this person has claimed responsibility.
Confession's good. Of course, we have that with Murphy as well. But if we do direct our attention to this hypothetical individual, then is there a way we can get this person to confess to people that matter, or maybe put it in writing? Do you know if that will be possible?
I can't say for sure, but I believe we could look into a way to encourage this person to put it in writing.
Who was witness to his verbal confession?
Oh, a mutual acquaintance of ours, Dr. Call.
Oh, well, that isn't bad in a court of law, but it's dubious in my own mind, I do have to say. But I think it would take something stronger than his sworn affidavit that he confessed to it.
What kind of evidence would you?
Well, I think as you mentioned, if we can get him to repeat it, that would be good. If we can get him to write it, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's written entirely his hand and not a typed confession with a signature on it.
I think I might be able to manage that because I'm gonna go see him on Monday.
Okay.
So I might be able to convince him to write out what's happened.
Okay. Well, if you get the evidence in order, then as I said, I have to direct you to the law office as I can't attend to it personally at the moment. So I gave you that address. Just go there, and as I said, ask for one of our associates, Howard Jenkins, and he'll get the information to the appropriate place so we can get this all in motion. And you can see that this talk of legal matters has drawn his attention away from his predicament, and he starts to sound a little bit like the old James Clark that you knew, who was very businesslike and professional when it came to matters of law. There's that shift in his tone and the loss of uncertainty. But one moment here.
I don't want to put words in the keeper's mouth, but I was wondering if he would be curious about how he had spoken to Charlie Murphy about whether or not he wanted to take the plea deal. Because I think in most of the record cases, he was considered basically too inept to even speak in a lot of cases.
But Clark had visited independently after you guys got him to sign off on the representation, and Dr. Lewis Powell had just mentioned that he had communicated with Clark, at least written, although nonverbal, right?
Well, I was just wondering if he'd be interested in...
I think the assumption I was making on behalf of Mr. Clark, because I didn't hear any language, that he was taking spoken as a euphemism for just communication, right? Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, Dr. Andrews, I need you to make a luck roll and a power roll.
Ooh.
Okay.
Could make it, but I got to log back in. I messed up my window again.
Doggone it.
How'd you do?
He's powerfully unlucky.
I failed my luck, but I successed my power.
You two are like peas in a pod. He lost an arm, and you've got your withered arm.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the midst of James Clark's excitement, he sort of trails off, and he's staring over your shoulder, and he's like, "What is that?"
I'll turn to look.
Okay, make a spot
what's
hidden.
what?
All right, so it's with a hard success. It is dimly lit in this room. He only had his reading lamp by his bedside there, from which you could look at the paper. So there's lots of shadows. But you scan across the room, and at first you just see shadows. He's got a chair for guests to sit in on this side. There's a painting on the wall. There's a point of darkness forming here, and then there's the window.
Mm-hmm.
And then you dart back to that very recognizable point of darkness that's forming
Yeah.
in the room. Thanks, Mr. Mueller.
I'll scream, "The Dark Hunter!" and I'll dart over and immediately start pulling him to his feet. So we got to get out of here.
Okay. Yeah, so he's like, "What? A Dark Hunter? What
Just
are you
trust me,
talking?"
we've got to go.
All right, so you get him on his feet and give me a dex roll.
Hard success.
Yeah, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
You're focused.
Yeah.
Despite his ability to communicate and his focus on these matters of law, I mean, you were aware the entire time that he was under the influence of strong painkillers.
Yeah.
And so you getting him up suddenly, he had lost his balance for a moment, but you were ready for it. And you kept him upright and you move out into the room or out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
So go ahead and give me a constitution roll.
Ah, failure. Can you luck a constitution roll?
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll spend 14 lucks.
Okay, so with a little bit of luck, you don't flag quite as badly. So this sort of sets the initial conditions for how fast you're moving. Of course, you are at a disadvantage because you're also helping James Clark move, but you're able to get out into that hallway and you come down to like a nurse's station, but the 1920s version of it. So they're just there, sorting out medications and making little notes on pieces of paper on clipboards, and she's sort of looking at you as you're coming down the hall, but she picks up that you're a doctor. I don't know, maybe nurses have a doctor sense or something, but yeah, she's like, "Doctor," with a question mark at the end of it. What are you doing? I wasn't aware we were moving Mr. Clark.
Fire. There's a fire. Do they have fire alarms?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe not like
There's a fire.
We do, where they were everywhere.
There's a fire. The whole building's burning down. Get everyone out right away. Move.
Yeah, so you see some alarm flash across her face, but then you see her face go dreadfully white as she looks beyond you, and she must see
Run.
a half or a part ape, part insect, part crustacean-like creature, some 7 foot tall, burst out of the room that you were just in with James Clark, and you hear its footfalls clicking and thudding down the hallway, and so she's just sort of gobsmacked there, and she drops her clipboard.
It's like, is she close enough that I can give her a hard smack?
Yes.
It's the 20s. That's what you do. Move, woman. It'll kill you. Get everyone out of here. Run.
Okay, yeah, so
run for your lives.
So you get her moving, although it's
panic.
All is lost. All is lost.
It'll eat you.
All right, so that it was pretty much a straight shot here to the front of the hospital.
Oh, are we on like the first floor?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is going to be somewhat difficult to get down the steps while you're supporting most of James Clark's weight. So,
they have any wheelchairs at the front?
Yeah, they do, but they are pretty bulky, and they're sometimes almost more of a liability, especially when it comes to navigating steps.
Yeah.
And there isn't a wheelchair ramp because this thing weighs like, I don't know, probably 60, 70 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. If I remember my Dark Tower, what did she say her wheelchair was?
Yeah.
It was like heavy.
Real heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway.
But yeah, to navigate the steps without a loss of speed, I'll need a strength roll.
Okay. Hard success.
All right, you got it.
The panic has set in now. I've got adrenaline.
But even as you walk down that hallway, you were challenged by other staff there. And in a similar method as the nurse, their challenges are cut short with various reactions of, either cursing or crying out for God or just odd things you wouldn't say. You wouldn't expect people to say, they're like,
Boot?
a boot. Oh, an animal's loose in the hospital.
Yeah. No, it's a Martian. Get moving.
There probably are people that would think that. Like, it's an alien.
The Martians have landed. Run. Yeah,
right.
so I'll just be screaming bloody murder, get out of here. It'll kill you. It's going to kill us all.
Okay, so you're on the street. You can see very much mirroring Monroe's situation is that you could try to cut through traffic, although there's a fair bit more of it because you're on more of a main road than he was when he left his building. Or you could continue on down the sidewalk in either direction.
Yeah, so which direction would be best?
Well, north would lead towards the bridges that cross the Charles River.
Yeah.
And that would be more towards where the Hermetic Order lodges are.
Yeah.
South would lead you towards, say, like the Boston Commons and the Boston Public Garden area.
Do I know where the nearest police station is?
Give me a navigate roll or education. Well, that works. Man, you're hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So, unfortunately, it's close, but when an interdimensional being is bearing down behind you, it's not nearly close enough. So you have a couple of blocks to make. You have to go 1 block north, and then you have to veer to the west past the courthouse, and there is a police station nearby.
Okay. I'm going to head that direction, but I am going to try to actually cut across traffic, hoping that it might not be as successful as I'm hoping I will be.
Yeah. In fact, you, when you glance over your shoulder while you're planning to do this, you see the Dark Hunter start to negotiate those steps, and someone in traffic driving a car who caught that just suddenly veers off and crashes into a lamp post. And he just kind of gets out and he's scratching his head, looking pointing at it.
Yeah.
He's like, don't you? And some people are starting to notice what's going on that are gathered on the sidewalks. In order to successfully dart across this, you can use either your strength or dex or luck.
Ooh, success.
Yeah, so you get across and you can see that the Dark Hunter is starting to move into traffic, although it's having more of a catastrophe on the flow of traffic as drivers pick up on this thing walking across. But so far, it hasn't been struck by anything. Now, a thought does enter your head. It's not moving that fast. You're fairly certain you could outrun it if you were to just deposit James Clark on the pavement.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. No.
All right, so you're on the far side of the road. You know you must still continue north, which comes to an intersection. Now, you could go on that way, or you could try your luck with these alleys that run between buildings.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, if there's because this thing's huge, so if I see any spaces we could get through that might slow it down, between dumpsters or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Like a narrow space?
Yeah.
Okay. So you head into this alleyway, which is fairly wide, but you see, sometimes there's 2-inch or 2-foot gaps between two buildings. They're built that close together, sometimes wider. So you're looking for something that you think you and James Clark could get through, and we'll leave that yet again to a luck roll if you find one that fits those parameters.
Okay.
You're on fire today.
Versus a 25?
Yeah.
Sending these Dark Hunters against us is like the trigger for all of our luck.
Yeah, you guys you bomb all these rolls you have in 70s and 80s.
And then
All right. Well, I think with that many rolls, that's pretty good. So yeah, you find one that for a fleeting moment, you fear that you and Clark are going to to get stuck in. Like if you have your shoulders, they brush both sides of it. And it even kind of gives you this anxious feeling for one moment. You have to force your way through and you pop out onto that street.
Okay.
And you're reasonably certain that the Dark Hunter won't be able to get through that. In fact, when you look through, you see it pause at that. But then one of those openings starts to form behind it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'll take that as like either it's like going to go away or it's just going to make one closer to me. So I'll keep moving towards the police station.
Okay.
He might have remembered from my story that the Dark Hunter that was chasing me went into one and then came out on the tram with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I'll keep moving to the police station.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good choice because it means in some sense you don't know how it gets to you. Can you even hide from such a thing?
Yeah.
All right. So you're walking down you're hustling down the sidewalk. You see that courthouse, it's just not too far from where you need to be when James Clark's kind of starts lagging. He's breathing heavy and he's asking you to slow down a little bit. He's like, what is that? Is this like, doctor, is this a hallucination?
No, it's not a hallucination. It's come to kill you. We're almost there. We can't slow down. Keep moving.
Okay. Yeah.
Trust me.
All right. So you push past the courthouse. You can go up to the intersection once again and wait for the crossing, or you can risk the traffic one more time, which has thinned out from normal daytime traffic. But as I said, it's still a bit busier.
Yeah. Do I see it behind me again?
No.
Okay. So I'll just like wait for a safe time to cross, but I'll keep looking all around to see.
All right. And so you pass by the courthouse. You're in front of the police station. You walk up the short steps and into the police station where they have a big tall desk, and you see an officer is just standing behind it, looking at rifling through papers or whatever. And he just gives you a cursory glance and then a double glance when he sees you're carrying what appears to be a wounded man, and he's like, what's the trouble here?
Officer, there's some escaped animal that's a gorilla. It's attacking people. And so I came here for your help.
You think I was born yesterday?
No, you'll see. Call the hospital. It attacked at the hospital.
Well, have a seat there.
Yeah,
don't go anywhere. I'm going to go have a look.
I wouldn't do that without backup. It's very violent.
Right.
It's very strong. It's vicious, brutal.
So he goes out that door, and the interaction brought a couple other officers out into this entry room, and they're sort of looking at you, and they're questioning you. They're like, "Oh, what happened to him?" So they're kind of going through that. And I'll take another power roll from you.
Finally had a failure. Can you luck power?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Burn through the luck.
Yeah. No sense having it. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll spend the luck to succeed at the power roll.
All right. So you catch a whiff of you did the most investigation on it, so it's Latakia, right? It's one of these telltale signs of this thing about to travel, where it takes all the separate spaces and times it's been to and presses it together into one moment.
Yeah.
And there are these after images, after effects from various times in the past. And then this smell of tobacco smoke comes and fills the room, which nobody really notices, but you notice because of its special association, and it presages that one of these portals is about to appear nearby.
Yeah.
Is that what that wood smoke smell is? Is it the Latakia that I was having?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I'll stand back up and I say, oh my God, it's almost here. And I'll start pointing around the room and
looking for it. Yeah. So you see it just above the tall desk that I described earlier. That portal begin to form, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost even more disconcerting because it's in the well-lit interior of a police station, and that doesn't seem to matter. Mm-hmm. And there it is forming, and you have a short while before it reaches its biggest point where this thing could come out. And you're pointing it out to the police, and it takes them a moment to pick up on it. But then they don't really know what to do. One of them goes for his billy club, and the other one goes for his service pistol, and they're like, what?
Yeah, I'll be like, draw your guns. You need your guns.
Like, what are you talking about? What is this?
So, like, is there one like close enough to me that I could like make a snatch for his pistol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't even require a roll for it.
Okay.
They're so transfixed by something that is impossible to describe
Yeah.
that he doesn't even notice well, you have it in your hand and you're leveling it. He's still perplexed at this, but the portal forms and you see into this gray space that these things come out of, and you can see it's striding. It's still some feet distance from this extra dimensional space, but you're aiming at that. Did you want to fire now?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd be in a panic at this point, so like I wouldn't be able to consider like, whoa, will the bullet cross the barrier or anything like that? So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and give me a firearms handgun. Is that the skill name?
Yeah.
Ooh, close.
I'll luck it.
All right.
I'll have 0 luck by the end of this.
Hey, what's the damage on your 38, Mr. Whitmire?
Let me check here.
I can look.
That is 1d10.
All right. So with a regular success, you deal 1d10 damage. For one.
Whatever.
Push it.
I got to do something.
It wasn't a bad shot. It just you can see it impacted on these more armored parts of it, and the report of the firearm changes the dynamic in the police station.
Yeah.
One of the guys, upon seeing this thing, faints dead away.
What a jerk.
He's a Lovecraft protagonist.
Yeah.
Fainting spells a lot.
It keeps him alive.
Yeah.
But the other one is, even though he reacts to you firing the gun, he's sort of frozen there for a moment, and he's just looking between this thing and you firing a gun in a police station, which is also crazy.
Yeah.
Shouldn't happen.
Generally, you shouldn't do that. Yeah. But I'll just scream, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it.
You have another shot if you want to take it.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, D10.
Yeah. Nice.
There you go.
What kind of a doctor am I?
All right, so you take a moment to steady yourself more, and you're kind of aiming towards the middle of this creature, to where there are less of these thick-looking plates.
Yeah.
And it impacts, and you see that blackish goo go flying somewhere into the back, and it flies into this interdimensional space, and it's kind of suspended for a moment, and then it starts floating upward. But at this stage, it does actually step out. It doesn't seem as though you've killed it or even slowed it down necessarily. And Mr. Clark says very calmly in a very small voice that, I think we should run again, Dr. Andrews.
Yes. I agree. We'll start running and hope the police will slow it down.
And a cop comes from another room again in response to the gunshot. And you just hear, Mother Mary, when he steps out and he sees what's going on. But that's as you guys are leaving the door. All right, so back on the streets of Boston. Where are you going now, Doctor?
Yeah, I don't know now. I guess I still have a gun, right?
You have a gun, and there are lots of cars in the
I'm going to
road.
go carjack somebody. I'm going to go carjack someone. Or say, like, give us, I'm going to go steal a car.
Okay. All right. So you see somebody who's just pulled up on the curb there. We'll say it's a cabbie. So he's just waiting there for a fare.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll pile in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need
even need to
I don't need to
carjack him?
rob him. I'll be like, get us out of here, man.
And he's like,
I'll pay you
sure. Is
double.
everything okay?
Just drive.
Give me a charm roll. Or no. Okay. We'll do this. Credit rating or appearance instead. Let's see if he'll overlook some of the details he thought he saw. He's like, did that guy have a gun?
He just come running out of a...
And the
Police
man he's with
officer
doesn't
with
have
a-
an arm.
And he's in a hospital gown.
He's got money, though. Look at his clothes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with that hard success on your credit rating, he starts driving, and he just asks where you want to go.
Well, God, if the police station doesn't help me, I don't know where to go. Do I? Like, where would I go from here? I don't know. I'll just say, where's Whitmire? He's got dynamite.
He had mentioned he was going to go track down Detective Nichols.
Yeah, I don't know where that is, so I guess I'll just have him take us to the lodge.
Okay. Yeah, so you're thinking about this part of the story that Monroe had told about where it had manifested this portal within the tram car itself, and the whole time you can't relax even though you don't see it pursuing you, like at the back of this cab, because you're just waiting for that point to appear somewhere in the car, but it does not, at least not in the whole car ride over to the lodge hall.
Okay.
Which actually, you have gotten into a long conversation with Dr. Call, and you were composing a message to Logan Terry. So you're actually still there by the time a very harried-looking Dr. Andrews appears.
Toting a pistol
and carrying a man.
He's got a gun in one hand, and he's got,
I kidnapped him.
And we will actually have to close it there today. Sorry for the other two to leave you guys hanging on Dr. Andrews' escape from the interdimensional hunter, but
Man,
It was pretty fun.
coming, Mr. Whitmire. Yeah, so let's do some skill roll increases and luck rolls.
Yeah, that was a lot
And
of.
food should be on the.
I think they just,
just dropped
it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.